Hello, I am Tennille Caulfield, a fellow with Yes Every Kids, No More Lines. I am here today to talk to Miss Chauncinique Williams about her story that is directly connected to the fight that we are fighting to eliminate school zoning. I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Chauncinique Williams. I am a Prince George's County resident, have been so for the majority of my life. I have 3 children who are in Prince George's County School. One has graduated already, and so I have 2 left to get through this school system.
Thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you for joining us today. So my first question for you is, I know that you had some life changes, that you went through a divorce and are now trying to navigate what new life looks like for you. And in this navigation, you have to deal with schools. You have not decided permanently where you and your kids are going to reside. So there's some in between. So my first question for you is, after the divorce, would No More Lines have made your transition easier?
Oh, most definitely. I wouldn't have to transition my kids as far as their paperwork to the school each and every year once the school's year ends. I think that the program I'm in is not sufficient for that because, originally when you enroll your child in school, they're there, and you don't have to go and put paperwork in every time if they're going to be at that particular school unless they change. So I think the no zoning would eliminate all that hassle, because that's a burden. I'm a single mother, I have to work, then I have to take time out to make sure that the schools are transitioning the paperwork. It's just so much, and it's overwhelming.
I agree. So I do know in your story, your first initial move was to your brothers. You stayed there for a while, and then you found a more permanent solution. Not yet permanent, but more permanent. So I do understand that you are in a sort of homeless program because you don't have permanent housing of your own yet. So and I understand that is a lot in itself. So talk a little bit about how no school zoning would be more beneficial than the homeless packet.
Okay. One, I think the zoning program that you guys are trying to establish would eliminate the parents from having to enroll again. I have to do an enrollment packet again at the end of the year. That's so frustrating, and being that I'm submitting basically the same information because nothing has changed with me.
Okay.
I think that's asinine for you to ask parents to submit things that you already have that you could keep for the whole school year, unless my situation drastically changed and I move to another state or county that doesn't have that, So I think by you guys doing the initiative to start this so that the whole state can be a no zoning area, it would eliminate that for parents, because that's frustrating to have to resubmit, and I just did it last year. Nothing has really changed far as my situation, far as the paperwork with the kids. They just won my 8th grader. I had an 8th grader because both of my other 2 children were in the same school. Well, I have an 8th grader transitioning into the high school that my son has just graduated from, and I had to still do a new packet for her as well as do the same packet for the child that's in the same school. And to me, that's just stupid. It's time consuming, and it's one thing that I have to worry about getting them there. And the transportation was just awful. Having them to have to constantly keep calling the bus depot for all 3 children in different school to make sure they got there on time, and then they didn't really get there on time because they wasn't able to facilitate that. So it needs a change, and I think that especially parents that that's trying to work and maintain their stability and mental stability will have less stress dealing with the paperwork with a no zoning issue, because once you enroll your kids in school or whatever school you want to have them in, that's it until you change states.
I agree. And all of this is a direct result of wanting to keep your kids in the same school, because within a school year you had to move twice.
Mm-hmm.
So the caveat is you don't want to disrupt your kid's life. You already disrupted it enough with the separation, with the divorce,
Mm-hmm.
with having to move twice during the school year. And the school that they are going to now is a good school. You want to keep them there, but the only way to keep them there is to go through this homeless packet. And then it's also, once you do find permanent housing, it is
then they got to switch back to their zoning.
Exactly, their zoning school.
And they have already built a rapport with their friends.
Yes.
You know, they're establishing their identity. And why would you want to disrupt children in the vulnerable state if they're coming up to, really find themselves and get a groove? So I don't want that for my kids. I want them to be able to stay in the schools that I have them in, because they're really good schools. And they'll be able to have their friends, because it's a lot of, with the frustrations of being, divorced, not really having your parents together and
Yes.
going through that transition. That's one less stress on the children.
I agree.
And that's one less stress on the parent, having to deal with that mental stability for the kids, as well as the own that I'm going through with myself. So let's keep it simple.
Yes, I agree. So my final question for you, as I really appreciate you doing this interview, telling your story, because I feel like there's two sides to the fence. There are, we're fighting against parents that really need this No More Lines for their kids to be able to go to a better school, to be able to, navigate life changes and different things like that, versus, parents that don't want kids, want to make sure that their kid gets in the good school in the zone that they're in. So in closing, to sum it all up, would you, if you were asked by anyone, do you support No More Lines? Are you an advocate for what we're fighting for?
Oh yes, most definitely, hands down. Because I want to be a part of stopping or eliminating the hassle for parents and children, to not have that transition and make it smoothly.
I agree. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody that tuned in to us and listened to Miss Williams tell her story. We are very grateful, and we will continue to advocate for everyone's child to be able to get the education that they need, however that is possible. Thank you.